Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode I'm going to be discussing Monday Night Football Super Wild Card Weekend Edition. So this was the last game wrapping up the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. And well, when I looked at this matchup I said, well, this could be like an ugly brand of football, meaning that it's low scoring, both teams just kind of playing good defense, and both offenses not really doing a whole lot. That was not the case. Cowboys, well, they played complete team football, and as a result, they dominated the game and got a decisive win over the Buccaneers. And with that, we're going to get right into the action, starting with the Cowboys. So Dak Prescott completed 25 of 33 passes for 305 yards and 4 touchdowns, adding 7 carries for 24 yards and an additional touchdown on the ground. So after missing his first 3 attempts of the night, Prescott was unstoppable for the remainder of the game. He held strong in the pocket and picked apart the Buccaneers secondary while taking only 1 sack. Facing a Tampa Bay offense that couldn't get much going, Prescott nearly had this game won by halftime. After putting together an average standard as measured by basic stats, Prescott's demolition of Tampa Bay showed that he is capable of lighting up a defense when it matters most, and he will certainly look to stay hot against a daunting 49ers defense in the divisional round. So yeah, if you can light up a defense, you might want to do that, because the 49ers have shown that if you let them hang around, if you keep it close, they will run away with the game. So it'll be interesting to see what Dallas is able to do with that. But overall, I thought they played a pretty good game. Kellen Moore calling up some good plays. Dak Prescott making some good throws, not throwing an interception either. And so they just gotta try to replicate that against the 49ers. So like I said, that defense is very good, and that game could get out of hand. It'll be interesting to see how the defense matches up against the 49ers. They have some playmakers as well, and their offense does a better job utilizing their playmakers than Tampa Bay's offense has. So a couple of big takeaways with the Cowboys. They won a road playoff game. So, I guess they can check that box, and, people can kind of shut up about it for the time being. I guess that was a big talking point. I don't know. People say a lot of things about the Cowboys and playoffs. I don't really listen to any of it. I don't really care for any of it. But congrats to the Cowboys winning their road playoff game. And Brett Maher, well, Brett Maher had certainly the worst game of his career, but he managed to potentially salvage his job in the end. I think the Cowboys came out and said they're going to try to work with him, stick with him. And you know what? I respect that. Guy misses 4 extra points, and then kind of makes the 5th one. So at the very least, he made 1. But yeah, that's certainly, something to monitor going into the next week. I mean, he's been solid for him this season. He's been accurate, so maybe you can chalk it up to a bad night, and hopefully he rebounds next week. And considering that they're sticking with him, I think that that's their expectation, that he bounces back next week, and you certainly hope he does, because I think in the game against the 49ers, those extra points are going to matter. As for the Buccaneers, Tom Brady completed 35 of 66 passes for 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So Brady's loss to Dallas sums up his regular season. He was given no support from the ground game and appeared to be on a different page than his receivers on multiple occasions, notably Mike Evans, which was quite strange to watch unfold. Playing from behind, they forced a drop back an absurd amount of times. Ziggy set a record for himself for most pass attempts in the playoff game. He set some sort of record that honestly probably should not be setting. In this case, that's what it was. Yeah, in this case it resulted in him setting a career high in pass attempts in the playoff game. Yeah, that was the record. I had it written down. Last week, Brady set the record for pass attempts and completions in a single season. So it was that type of season for Brady. He was asked to do a lot, but can only do so much at age 45 despite being Tom Brady. His touchdown rate of 3.4%, career low, and his mark of 6.4 yards per attempt trailed only his 2002 campaign. So after a brief retirement last offseason, only to come back 40 days later for a one-and-done playoff appearance, Brady will undoubtedly have retirement on his mind, maybe for good this time, and if he does go through with it, if he does stick with it, he will go down as the greatest to ever play the game. If he doesn't, He'll hit the open market as an unrestricted free agent. Re-signing with the Bucs is a possibility, although given how this season went and how it ended, it's unlikely. I heard the 49ers being floated, which honestly, before Brock Purdy came onto the scene, I could see that as a possibility, but now with Brock Purdy, how can you turn away from the guy? Unless he just falls flat on his face. But even if he does fall flat on his face, which it seems unlikely, I don't know if it's fair to the kid to kind of kick him to the curb, even for Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady seems like, yeah, just riding with him 1 year at the expense of Brock Brady doesn't seem like a good idea. Titans, there's an interesting one right there. I don't know what Ryan Tannehill's contract, what the dead money for Tannehill's, what dead money there would be left behind, if any, in Tannehill's contract. And the Raiders, I think the Raiders certainly make the most sense just because Josh McDaniels, his old OC from his Patriots days, is now the head coach, and also the Raiders are moving on from Derek Carr. They make the most sense. Per usual, and you can expect another interesting offseason from Tom Brady. There's going to be a lot of speculation. I'm not really going to get into all of it. I don't really care for speculation. I'll just kind of sit back, watch it all unfold, and then see where he ends up. And if I had to take a guess as to what happens, my guess would be that he would retire. And yeah, sure, his career didn't end in the most ideal fashion, but I mean, yeah, you would like to see him go out winning the Super Bowl, but I think he kind of pushed the limits, per se, in terms of, being able to go out on his own terms. I think if he wanted to go out on his own terms, he would have done it after he won that Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, but I understand, a new team, win the Super Bowl, want to try it again, does not work out, you retire, then you come back and it doesn't work out. So yeah, I think, as I said, he pushed the limits, and yeah, sure, you could still play relatively well, but you look at this Buccaneers offense, I think some of it is on Brady, some of it's on coaching, and yeah, I think ultimately it might just be better for him just to walk away, just kind of be like, you know what, I tried to come back, tried to win another Super Bowl, didn't work out, wasn't ideal, but I think, he can say, yeah, I've done all that I can, I pushed the limits, it's time to kind of walk away. But would it surprise me if he played another season? Probably not, but I sincerely hope whoever does sign him has a backup plan, because that's most likely a one-year thing at best. So a frustrating season for Tampa Bay mercifully ends, and be interesting to see what happens next. Tom Brady moves on. That's most likely, whether it's retirement or free agency. I think it is likely that he does move on. So Tampa Bay's now found itself in an interesting spot at quarterback, and it doesn't seem like they have a person on the roster to step up in the absence of Brady. And then you kind of wonder about Byron Leftwich. What's his job status? He hasn't gotten any head coaching interviews like he has before, and I don't expect that to change. I think with how Tampa Bay's played on offense, I think kind of any sort of hype around him as a head coach is kind of dissipated. And Todd Bowles, it's interesting that nobody really talks about Todd Bowles, but he takes over as head coach. Everybody's, kind of being like, yeah, this is a good thing for Todd Bowles. He's getting a second chance after his Jets tenure doesn't work. But what if Todd Bowles' Jets tenure didn't work out because Todd Bowles just doesn't cut it as a head coach? It's an interesting possibility. You take over as a team. He takes over this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. It's a good spot for a guy to get a second chance as a head coach, but it seems like everything just kind of fell apart. The offense, the defense. You're one and done in the postseason. You win the NFC South with a losing record. I mean, maybe Todd Bowles just doesn't cut it as a head coach. I wouldn't expect the Buccaneers to move on, but I would certainly, kind of keep that in mind, and it's something that could be, it's something just to keep in mind for next season. Could coaching be the root cause of it all? Maybe, maybe not. So interesting offseason for Brady, interesting offseason for the Buccaneers, and yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.